Good evening, how are you? Just grab the mic right there. Good afternoon. All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Well, welcome to SEL. I'm Johnny Moss, President of the Board of Education. I'll allow the board members to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, my name is Danielle Wooten. I represent District 1 and serve as the Vice President of the Salem City School Board.
Good afternoon, welcome to Selma, Alabama. I'm Brenda Oklahoma, some people call me Miss O, and I represent District 2, Wards 4 and 5.
Good evening again. I had the pleasure to work with Dr. Dixon earlier today. I am Phyllis Hauser. I represent District 3, Wards 3 and 8, and it's been a pleasure.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Tanya Miles, and I represent District 4.
Well, Dr. Dixon, we have a series of questions that we'll be asking you over the course of this interview. Feel free to answer them as direct and as accurate as possible. And we look forward to hearing what you have to say about your intentions of turning out being served as next superintendent of Salem City Schools. I'll just start off with question 1. Please give us a thumbnail sketch of your professional experiences, your pivotal belief in public education, and why you were interested in being our superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. May I pass these out to the board?
Certainly. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moss, for that question. I guess a thumbnail sketch of my professional experiences. I started out as a classroom teacher. I taught for several years, a couple of years. I moved on, transitioned from a classroom teacher to becoming an elementary school counselor. After a stint at elementary school counselor, I became a middle school counselor and assistant principal, half day at each. Following that, my next career move was as a full-time assistant principal at an elementary school. Stayed there and became the principal the following year. And I was there about 10 years. Following that, was asked to go to the middle school to do some troubleshooting. I served as the middle school principal for a number of years. Then I ended up at high school as an assistant principal. After that stint of assistant principal at the high school, I was then promoted to assistant superintendent. My first role as an assistant superintendent was as the director of operations and transportation. The following year, I became the director of federal programs. The following year, I became the assistant superintendent in charge of federal programs, operations, personnel, even did a short stint of working with finance due to an untimely illness of our finance director. So with that being said, I think I've done everything with the exception of drove the bus and school nutrition. That's a thumbnail perspective on my career. My belief in public education. It is my belief that public education is an equalizer. It puts us all on a level playing field. With diversity, equity, and inclusion, it gives all children a great start for a great foundation to become productive citizens. I believe in public education because public education has provided for me to be where I am today. I was the sixth child of a woman, of my mother, who had 6 children prior to age 22. Without public education, I would not be sitting before you all today. It provided for me exposure. It provided for me opportunity. And that is my belief in public education. Why am I interested in becoming the superintendent in Selma, Alabama? When I look at Selma, it's a very interesting place to me. This is not my first stint at looking at Selma prior to when Dr. Bird was hired. I had an interest even then. Selma's rich history and an opportunity to continue its legacy, and my passion for education is the reason why I'm sitting here today wanting to be the superintendent of Selma City Schools.
Thank you. As the new superintendent of this school system, what will be your actions for the first month, the first few months, and the first 6 months of your time in the office?
My first month would involve a lot of observation. It would give me an opportunity to see what's going well, what's not going well, and how we can improve on everything that we are doing. So I think that it would be wise to any leader that before we come in making changes, that we take a moment to pause, to just reflect on how things are going. One of the things that I would spend a lot of time doing first month is listening and learning. Within the 90 days, I will be committed to building relationships and strategic planning. 180 days, I will be looking for opportunities for implementation and continuous and sustainable improvement.
How would you gauge your success at the end of your first year?
As we all know, success looks different for each and every one, but it is in the eyes of the beholder. Our success, engage my success, number one, by reviewing the SMART goals that we would have, continuously to focus on the strategic plan, gauge my success by stakeholder and community engagement, by student achievement, financial management and fiscal responsibility, school and central office, climate and culture, and personal reflection.
Okay, Dr. Dixon, so I want to say welcome to Selma.
Thank you.
So, in your questions in your answers to Mr. Moss, you talked about our rich history, so that means that you've looked at Selma close. You know, we're a loving city with a lot of history. So my question would be, as the superintendent, what's the biggest challenge you expect to face as a first-year superintendent here in Selma City?
I would say the challenge would be improving academic performance, because that is not an overnight process. We want to make sure that we have growth and not swelling. The next thing I would say would be navigating political and community expectations. Whoever is sitting in this seat has a lot to juggle. Recruitment and retaining effective teachers, and ensuring student safety and well-being in the time and season that we live in.
Dr. Dixon. Describe your decision-making style and give a few examples of strategies you have used in different situations.
My decision-making style is kind of based on the situation. There are times when I use directive. That's when a decision has to be made immediately. And I'll give you an example of that. During COVID, that was not a time that you could do a lot of collaboration because no one had ever treaded that path before. So I would say that would be a time when I would say directive. The next time would be analytical. I would say analytical would be my next decision-making style. I think that would be during the time of budget calendar and budget development. I think that it takes a very analytical person to guide through that process and to make sure that we're being fiduciary responsible. Delegating, there are times when I do delegate. In building for capacity, I think it's important that you delegate some responsibilities so you can see what people are really made of. If I'm the smartest person in the room, we have a problem.
Okay. My next question is talking about community engagement, and it's a two-part question. What are your ideas about engaging families who are inexperienced with participating or have negative experiences with the educational process? And how would you support your staff in successfully and respectfully reaching out to these families?
I think that's based upon strategies for engaging families would include building trust and relationships. Because irregardless of someone's perception, it's true to them. So I think that we work through that area by building trust and establishing relationships. Also, I would say by creating welcoming environments. Talk is cheap. We can say an open door policy, but truly have an open door policy. By providing support and resources, that means taking the school to the community and not always expecting for the community to come to the schools. Through workshops, training, and resource centers. Address barriers to participation. Not only have meetings in the afternoon, parents and community, but have flexible schedules. So to accommodate those that are not able to come in the afternoon, may be able to come to a midday meeting. And then we want to empower families with leadership opportunities and feedback mechanisms. I think when we empower, I can teach a person to fish, feed them for a day. If I give them a fish, but then if I teach them to fish, they can feed themselves for a long time.
Dr. Dixon, when a new superintendent is hired, you want to make a smooth transition, make the transition as smooth as possible for everyone. How would you have the educational community and the community adjust to the new superintendent's governing style?
Well, I think it starts with the governance team. I think we set the tone. So I would say with the Board of Education, by establishing clear communication, scheduling regular meetings, and providing transparent updates. One of the things that I found as a former superintendent is I did not like surprises, and my board did not like surprises. So I'm very big on keeping the board informed. Build trust, spend time understanding priorities and concerns, and demonstrate commitment to the district's vision and goal. If we fail to plan, we plan to fail. Through the eyes of schools and staff, engage with the school leaders, meet with the leaders, so that they would understand the needs and challenges and encourage open dialogue and communication. But I think the communication piece starts here at the top with the governance team and the superintendent. By providing professional development, offering training sessions to help staff adapt while providing resources and support for continuous improvement. With students and families, by creating a welcoming environment, host meetings, listening sessions, ensure communication is accessible and inclusive, with using multimedia opportunities. Not only just communicate through newsletters, but use social media, also calling systems to make sure that the information is actually getting where it needs to be. Address concerns. Be proactive in addressing concerns while providing clear information about changes and their impact. With business owners and community members, develop and foster partnerships, engage with local businesses and organizations to build partnerships to support the education. In community involvement, invite community members to participate in school events, keeping them informed about district development and successes.
Okay, so my question is going to involve looking forward specifically to our schools and then looking backwards specific to your experience and results. What would you do to improve our student achievement in our schools? And then that second portion has three parts. One, describe your experience developing, implementing, and evaluating curriculum and instruction programs that achieve academic success. Two, what was the assessment, support, and accountability structure that you put in place? And then third, what were the results?
Loaded questions. I would say our intervention approach must address the concerns experienced around social emotional learning and staff wellness. that particular question, I think it's important that we make sure that we have effective Tier 1 instruction going along within every classroom. If we do the small things right, the big things will take care of itself. Tier 2, Tier 3, I think we take the opportunity to provide support and professional development so that staff will feel comfortable in providing those particular interventions. Teachers a lot have been prominent teachers. They're continuous learners as well. So we have to provide that support that is needed for both staff and students in addressing their strengths and weaknesses. So I think we have to take some time to dig down to the root causes of why we're not succeeding and where we are succeeding. So if we can take an opportunity to make sure we have an MTSS, make sure that our person who is in charge of our 504 plans, that they are written well and that they are being followed through. Second part of my question.
The second part was specific to your experience. What's your experience developing, implementing, and evaluating curriculum and instruction programs that achieve academic success? What structures did you put in place to assess, support, and hold staff accountable? And then what were the results of those actions?
When I initially went to the school, the district where I was served as superintendent, the graduation rate was 46%. During my tenure there, we raised it up as high as 96%. That was done by providing safety nets, interventions before school, after school, during school. It was also that we received a school improvement grant. The school improvement grant was only our vehicle to resources. So we were able to provide pervasive professional development. We were able to reward teachers for attending professional development and with the implementation of the strategies. So I would say the result of that would be that we saw an increase in graduation rate, we saw an increase in student achievement.
Okay, I have the next question as well. How would you hold staff members accountable for student achievement while balancing the demands on teachers? And this has three parts. What strategies have you implemented in the past to measure performance outside of test scores? 2, how are those strategies shared with staff, and how was that received from staff? And what were some obstacles that you overcame? And then 3, again, what were the results to academic growth and morale?
Okay. By implementing a plan, do, check, act, plan, do, check, act, that's a model for continuous improvement. I think a lot of times that we ask the teachers to do things that we have not taken the time to really front load. So I would say through by plan, do, check, act. The accountability piece there is to inspect what I expect. Not only by word, but also by deed. By making sure that staff is effective in modeling what we want to see and what we want to see happen. The next part of that question.
I guess I'm just gonna repeat it and you can determine what's the next part. So specific strategies that you're implementing to measure the performance outside of test scores. And then how were those strategies shared with staff and what was the reception from staff? And if you had any obstacles, how did you overcome those? And then what was the result to academic growth and morale?
Academic growth and morale was definitely as student achievement increased, students felt better, staff felt better, and the community felt better. So when I think about arriving at my past district, all of my content teachers at the high school had moved on, so we were starting from round one. So first it started with recruitment, and then from recruitment to retention. And so we were able to offer sign-on bonuses. We were able to offer those who were not certified assistance to help them become certified. That also gave us an opportunity that they would have to stay with us for a period of time to complete that obligation. So that helped us with retention as well. So when I think in terms of what was done, the effects of that was increased student achievement. And I've also provided for you a list of other things other than student achievement data. And what other things would I look at? I look at climate and culture. I think climate and culture surveys are very important. Not only climate and culture surveys from students and staff, but also from the community. I think you have to give people an opportunity to speak. I think that helps to gauge how we're all doing. And sometimes it's things that we don't want to hear, but the things that we don't want to hear help us to improve. So I would say through, other than just test data, I would look at surveys. Not only would I look at surveys, but I would look at that perception data as well to gauge what our successes and what our challenges are. One of my challenges was that there was a divide within the community, a level of support from the community and those that had given up on the system. So it was my challenge to bring the community together so that we could garner support for the main thing. And the main thing was our students and opportunities for them. So I would say that we overcame that barrier by developing relationships and partnerships and being transparent. Being transparent. When we had an issue, making sure that our board was informed. If we had an issue, making sure that the community was informed. I never allowed anyone else to tell my story. Just as I had an expectation with my own children that I didn't want to hear something about them from anyone else, that is how I lead. My board will not learn about a situation from anyone else other than me. If I'm made aware of it, I think that helps communication both ways.
Good evening again. I have question number 9 for you. It talks about finance and budget. And that's very important topic to us in Selma because, we are a high poverty area.
Yes, ma'am.
And, we did really well with the S funds. So now they're gone, basically, and we have to, step back to reality. So my question to you is, I want to know about the last significant critical budgetary decision you made. And as you give me the answers for this, I want you to tell me what was the situation, what decision did you make, and who did you involve, what analysis or information did you gather to support your decision-making process, and what was your impact on your decision? But I'll come back to these if you need me to come back, because that's a lot to take in.
Okay, thank you.
So we just start with the first two. What was the situation and what decision did you make and who did you involve?
It's almost comparable to the ESSA funds, having the ESSA funds and then not having the ESSA funds. So I would say my school improvement grant, which we call a city grant, it provided us with a wealth of money. My decision was inclusive of the governance team, district staff, the school finance director, district finance director, and stakeholders. Because once those funds were gone, we had to live in a different world. And living in that different world, we could no longer sustain the people, but we needed to sustain the practices. So we were able to sustain the practices because they had become pervasive throughout the period of time that we had the city grant. We became top-heavy during that time and put in a lot of positions that we had to learn to live without. So having those courageous conversations with staff members to say, okay, these conversations were held up front, and we had people to sign that you're working on a grant, and at the end of this grant, you may not be able to remain in your particular position. So I would say that it was the city grant, the ending of the city grant, and being able to sustain the practices even after the personnel is gone.
Thank you. What analysis or information did you gather to support your decision-making process?
The analysis was, the board made it clear that we cannot sustain all of these positions. And so as that being, as I take directives from my board and looking at the budget, it was evident that we could not sustain all of those positions. So we were analytical in where we were because we knew where we had come from. We came from a bad financial status with my taking on the district to a great fund balance. So we knew we did not want to go back, that we could tap into our fund balance too much to sustain positions beyond what the state was funding. So as we did that, we had to do some critical analysis of what will not impact student achievement and our students. I think that was the first analytical piece piece that we did. That included the district level team, that included our governance team, our board. It also included our school level administration because it was going to be a new normal for them.
Well, thank you for elaborating on that, because we're in the same boat now.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
know, the last funds are depleted. What was the impact of your decision?
The impact of my decision, we had two assistant superintendents. One, which came with me when I came to the position, was a personal friend, and I had to tell that personal friend that you need to start looking because we will not be able to sustain two assistant superintendents. So it caused us to have some courageous conversations. It also, we had to have a new normal where a lot of people were only doing one thing. That was not the new normal. The new normal was we had to look at everybody's expertise and realign our organizational structure so that we could continue with best practices and continue trying to, with continuous improvement and increasing student achievement. An example of that is I was not only the superintendent, but I became superintendent, social worker, and whatever it needed to be. So I served as superintendent and social worker for the district because of my background. My director of federal programs was not only in charge of federal programs, but also had a component of teaching and learning. So people had to learn to do more than one thing.
And your final question for tonight talks about long-term commitment. Now, if you have done the research on Selma, which I know you have, we have had several people in this position. And we want some longevity. So, my question to you is, considering the importance of stability in leadership, how do you plan to establish a long-term presence in our community and ensure consistent leadership for our school system?
Mr. O, I stayed in one district for 22 years. The next district, I stayed until I retired, which was 8 years. 22 years, one district, 8 years in another. I have had one wife for 34 plus years. I been at one church for 27 years. I don't do a lot of jumping around. I was reared by my grandmother, and she just instilled in me that when you go on a job, you go there to do it well and to give it all that you got. So my record speaks that I don't do a lot of moving around. I'm not here looking for the next opportunity. So I can commit to long-term here in Selma. Whether that looks like 5 to 10 years or more, I'm in for the long haul. I do think that there needs to be some stable leadership. I followed when Dr. Davis was here, I followed Dr. Bird was here, and I know that there needs to be some stable leadership. I think if this leadership is long-term, it provides opportunity to build for capacity, and we can definitely have a good succession plan in place and to grow our own by being able to do that with time.
Of course, I love that last statement by growing our own. And thank you for answering my questions, and thank you for being a honeydew. I see you pretty wife over there. That's it for me.
I got a friendly, I want to ask Ms. Ella to do a friendly addition to her question. I know we talked about sustainable leadership at the district level, but could you also add to your question, like what strategies you would put in place to create sustainability at the school level as well? Because we have a lot of new principals at our schools.
I think that's important that we have our leadership academy, and in developing our leadership academy, that will help us to showcase what it should look like for Selma. Our leadership academy would involve our principals, our administration at the school level, and provide for them support, provide for them an opportunity for professional development, so that we can help them to feel empowered. And I think that when they feel empowered, they would empower their staff. So I think that would help us to build for capacity by developing our own leadership academy. And I've had some experience in that, and it seemed to proved to be valuable. Not only for the present leadership team, but to have those that we see potential for leadership in, that we have a developing leadership academy as well. We have a lot of young teachers, and I think when we see opportunity for growth, we become more committed. I ended up in administration because I was identified as a systems need. And I think that that's what we're going to have to do here in Selma, is we begin to evaluate, to see what we have within our district, identify some people as systems need, and there are ways to do that and to provide resources for them to continue their educational process, and to work with them so that they feel like they will have opportunities to move up right here in Selma. You can go anywhere from right here.
Does anyone have any other questions?
I do have a question that's just burning.
It's not enough thing, but as Ms. O said, we've had a lot of turnaround, and we've had a lot of people from the outside coming in. So my question to you would be, and I know whatever part of Georgia you're established, so would you be a Monday through Friday superintendent for us, and then to Georgia on the weekend, or would our children see you in Walmart on Milk Isle, or at Dollar General when our parents are having issues? It's not a requirement that our superintendent lives in Selma, but it's a preference, and I think that just speaks volumes. So could you speak to that?
Sure. I think that's why my wife is here tonight, because we are committed to being here, and committed to transitioning here. My family is on board. There's nothing to prevent us from being able to do that. No, I'm not a Monday through Friday superintendent. I am very involved. You're going to see me at the games. You're going to see me in Walmart. You're going to see me at Zaxby's. So, as I was sharing earlier today, that it was important to me that I spend some tax dollars right here where I work, because these are the people who are investing in us to be able to do what we do. So our strategic end that I live 20 miles away from my other district, that I purchased my gas before I left the county where I was working because it was important for them to see me spending dollars there within the community. So we are committed to transitioning this way. We look forward to it.
Ms. Wood, did you have another question? Are you sure? Well, Dixon, do you have any questions for us?
I guess one of my questions would be, what is your timeline?
It's been very expedient so far, so we'll finish out the interview process this week, give us a chance to, check references and gather all of our interview questions, tallies, and then I think we'd be probably 2 weeks. I think we'll meet in 2 weeks to kind of decide, where we're going to move forward from that aspect. So you should hear something from us by the 1st of February.
My second question would be, what are you expecting in your next superintendent? What are your expectations?
Committed to our students, committed to our community, because here in Southern, our babies, they have a lot of challenges, and we have a lot of things on the outside that comes to the inside.
Yes.
And so we need to make sure that we're affording them every opportunity to succeed. Total transparency. I heard you say earlier that you want to be the one to tell your story, and that's the way it should be. But again, I honestly admit Selma's a different place. So we'll get 5 versions of something before we even get it from the superintendent. And so my whole thing is to support our faculty and staff. And I heard you talk about that tiered instruction to make sure that our children are getting the tiered supports that they need. And sound finances, and I saw that as one of your bullets as I looked through your thing, because as Ms. O stated, we're losing our ESSA dollars, but we still have to be able to take nothing and make something to ensure that we're giving our children the best. We don't have much, but we have had some superintendents in the past that have had some financial wherewithal. So we do have some money market accounts and some things of that nature, but it wouldn't be a come in and say, ooh, that money's there, we just blow through that. So sound financial management, that would be, because everybody tell you, I'm the god of the money. Because that's important, because I know we go 1 penny off of what our state reserve is, the State Department is cutting. And so we don't want that to happen either. And we have a sound CSFO, and she does a great job in guarding our money and keeping us informed on where we are financially. And she'll tell us quick, we don't have it, how can you do that? But sometimes she'll kind of slow drag. So she is the superintendent, a marriage husband and wife, to make sure that our money and our funds are doing what they're supposed to do.
One thing that I would like to see is fairness. I sit here year after year asking the question, is no one in Salem good enough? We hire so many people from across the state of Alabama, but we overlook the people right here in Salem, and all of us have the same credentials. You have to go get the certification through the state of Alabama. So that's what I want to see. That's what I want to see happen this time around. That we look at the candidates fairly, because I didn't understand why this person was hired and worked a few years ago. They worked over right here in Selma. The people that live here in Selma, the houses, paying those property taxes and all that, we overlook them for somebody to come in, get a salary, and go back to where they live at. So I want a little bit more fairness. I'm not saying somebody did some hanky-panky stuff to hire people. I don't know if that happened, but it was a red flag to me. You know, we have so many people that have leadership degrees, and they have not been given an opportunity. If there's a problem with them, I want fairness so you can tell them what's wrong so they can improve themselves, and you can give them a fair chance. That's all I ask.
And so I would like to respond to that because it is my belief that if we have people from Selma that has potential, that if there are some weaknesses of why they are not being promoted, I feel incumbent that it is my responsibility to strengthen them, to build them up, to tell them what their weaknesses are, develop a plan so that they will be ready. So I do believe in my career track in my hometown where I spent 22 years. The high school principal, both of the elementary principals, at one time every principal had to come up under my leadership within the city because I do believe in building for capacity and making sure that there are others that are pulling them along. So I think that that's important that we have an opportunity for that academy because just like I said, it was not for those that are already in leadership, but those that are working with us. I think you reward people who have been dedicated to your district, dedicated to your city, and you're able to move them along by letting them know that yes, I'm interested in your professional growth as well.
For me, I would say what I would look for in a superintendent is someone that comes in with a servant mentality, not a savior mentality. Somebody that comes in to truly be a part of the community, understand this community, understand the needs of this community, and then be inclusive in developing strategies to get results, like real strategies to get real focused results. And then my other thing was similar to Ms. O, fairness. I think when you look at accountability and for it to truly transcend, it has to be fair. You have to treat everybody the same, the rules have to apply everybody the same, and we have to have rules and standards in order for people to follow them. And so I would say, and not for our staff, fairness for our staff, but also fairness for our students in the instruction.
Because teaching and learning is where the rubber meets the road, and I think that you cannot treat everybody the same, but you got to be fair in your treatment. Because there are different things that different people bring to the table to different situations. But I do think that my goal has been to be fair, firm, and consistent. I don't want to give a mixed message to anyone so that no one is misled. So I think if I'm fair, I'm firm and consistent with my practices and the way I carry out as lead learner for the district, then I think that we can make people feel seen and valued.
Again, thank you, Dr. Dixon. We appreciate you. We appreciate your interest in Selma City School Board Superintendent position. We thank you for traveling here today, and know if you having a welcome stay in Selma, Alabama. I'm sure you enjoyed your tours and you had some wonderful tour guides, I understand
I
today.
have a wonderful tour guide.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, we want to thank you for considering us, and thank you for interviewing with us tonight.
And thank you to the community for being here tonight. Thank you for the board for even providing the opportunity. And if I am a good fit, I look forward to working with you all, because I think that this position also requires that you are a good fit to work with your governance team. Mr. Moss, my first board was all women, so I'm glad to see you at the table. But I did finally eventually get a male on.
Be careful what you ask for.
But having six wives was a little hectic sometimes. So thank you for the opportunity to be here with you all today.
Yeah, we appreciate it.